Hey, I did this video a while ago, but I wasn't happy with what I said because I feel I went a bit off topic because the book Atlas Shrugged, which I greatly enjoyed, um, was a bit polarizing because of course there were people who like capitalism and there are people who do not. Um, I think it would be interesting to actually go to a communist or a socialist country and see what they make of capitalism and socialism. That would be very interesting. And the book, just to give a brief outline if you haven't read it, it's my friend and I were jokingly referred to it as the capitalist manifesto, which is to say that every capitalist industrialist was driven but honest. But I wouldn't melt to an extent. They really were like the Ubermensch, you know. Whereas every socialist, or I don't know if I would consider them socialists, but the head behind the banner of socialism, if you want, was like was some sort of like man thing, you know, little and mishappen, and they didn't take care of themselves, and they drank too much, and they just the only thing they didn't do was roll about in their own shit. So this polarized a lot of people towards the book in saying, well, I'm a socialist and I don't go on like that, so how dare they? But I discussed this with my friend, and you have to in a book point out the virtues of something if you're going to promote it. If you look at an advert on telly, it's not going to tell you all the things wrong with something, like, oh, Volvo, yeah, it's a great car, but there's not much room in the boot. You know, it doesn't happen like that. So it is, when you think about it, almost an advertisement of capitalism. Although it does spend a lot of time shitting on socialism, and I obviously what could be construed as a inaccurate description of socialism. I'm sure I couldn't mention one because I don't really get into stuff like this, but I'm sure you could find some altruistic socialists out there that actually are in power. I don't mean like among the herds of the unwashed, you know. It's it is it brings me in the book, and I'm trying to do this without spoilers and what have you, that it's less about the politics and more about the character of the person conducting the politics. As in, if you took any of the bad characters in that book who were just happened to be socialists, like your Jim Taggart, who was out for himself. He gave $100 bill to a Trump once, and but it was purely for himself. They if they tried their hand at some form of capitalism, let's say, it would be just as bad as their attempts at socialism. Whereas if you got a guy like, you know, like the Henry Reedens or the Dagny Taggarts and stuff in the book, if they decided to turn their hand to a socialist aspect, you know, and they did start doing things for free for the greater good per se, then it would probably be turn out quite well. I've always held that if the people who sought power were the people who didn't actually want the power for their own gain, and this happens in a lot of places, the people who are actually after the positions of authority are quite often the last people who should be given them, whereas the people who don't want the authority might do a better job out of pure sense of duty. And you see that in a lot of places. So, like, to me, rather than saying capitalism good, socialism bad in the book, although I have to say I am not a detractor from capitalism. I live in a capitalist society. ironically enough, not working for any private firms, but I do live in a capitalist society, and to me, all of the better places in the world to live are generally capitalist, which is to say there is a free market, not to say that there are no social services. That's a distinction. America, the USA, we can get back to that because we're going down the route of the NHS and social health care and what have you. Then it it is a very flawed system. But to me, I mean, they're all flawed systems. The only systems that work are the ones who bring a third party into it, I feel. If there's only like all of the communist governments that I've seen on my very cursory examination, they've all been one party systems, you know, the Russians, the Chinese, the Fidel Castro. I couldn't speak for Cambodia, I don't know much about that. But when you start taking away something like consequence to a thing, that's when everything goes tits up. When they can do what they want, then you get, you know, Stalin just killing everybody as soon as look at them and all that. And yeah, to me, it's more of a, not so much of a political thing. Atlas Shrugged was more of a moral thing. You've got to be very careful who you do give the power to, be it capitalist or socialist. And you say, well, how do you not give power to somebody? I mean, I do ridiculously small things. I mean, I've always had a bit of a thing about buying supermarket brands, for instance. I've always said, look, you're selling the stuff, you're getting a bit of money, you're a shop. Why? You know, there's a brand that actually just makes, like, let's say, crisps, you know, potato chips. I would never buy an Asda brand of potato, or a Walmart brand of potato chips or crisps. If I could buy, like, say, Walkers, because I know Walkers is for that. And that's a piddly little thing. If I saw a fair trade one, I would buy the fair trade one. I try and keep it to fair trade and stuff like that, which is a capitalist thing. Even in the book, there was like one line that said Henry Reardon always paid his men a very good wage, which is part of successful capitalism. And we all know a lot of people like I know Bezos has a very bad reputation for what he pays his warehouse workers. I did briefly speak to somebody who worked in a Bezos warehouse, and she was not flattering about it. And to me, and this is an example of how capitalism can get tits up, is like, you know, if you are buying a, you know, commissioning a 6-story yacht, your workers should be paid a fair wage. And I'm not saying you're going to shower them with gifts and all that. But seriously, a fair wage and reasonable hours, not like 18-hour shifts and shit. I'm not saying Bezos does 18-hour shifts. I don't know if he does or not, but I do know from my own experience, I was part of a private security firm. Nothing flash, just sitting around places on a night time, making sure they didn't get burgled. Or if they did get burgled, just make sure they were reported. It was an insurance game. There was literally nothing I could do if somebody put their mind to burgling something. But it was private, so they did bend over backwards to pay you as little as possible. And I started that job just after the minimum wage, the legal minimum requirement for a wage came in England, which I believe probably doubled, if not more than doubled, what they were paying security guards, which meant security guards didn't have to work 60 and 70 and sometimes 90-hour weeks. I do know one guy I was talking to who was a manager, he actually worked a full 2 weeks doing 15-hour shifts every day, which I I mean, there's no need to be doing something like that. You know, so that again is an example of capitalism gone bad. But there are any amount of examples of socialism gone bad as well. It is literally the person who's trying to do it, conduct it, run it, for what reason they're doing it. It's and that is majorly what I got from Atlas Shrugged, and then you can get onto like the bits at the end of the book that are just a bit silly, but that's what I came away thinking. That is sort of what I thought of first, but I did find it funny that it was one of these echo chamber books, like people saying, "Oh, like yeah, she hurt me eyesight when I read it because I rolled my eyes so hard because of this and that and the t'other," and you're just like, "Yeah, great. I mean, can you not like can you not talk about something about being horribly sarcastic?" I mean, I can't, but that's a different thing. But yes. The major thing about, let's say, socialism, because capitalism tends not to give a shit. I find Bezos isn't standing there apologising over his workers and stuff. He's just like, yeah. But the main thing about socialism is, even if they are trying to fuck you over, they're trying to tell you they're doing it for your own good, which I don't like. But I think we've a long way for any form of anything good to come from government or big industry at the minute. It's just, I think it'll turn around. I hope it'll turn around. I hope I'm not being unrealistic or fantastic, but at some point, there's only so much you can do to piss people off. I mean, we've got the fuel situation at the minute where, you know, fuel prices have went through the roof, and now we've got the cost of living crisis, which, I mean, it'll mean for me, I can I'm saving up quite a bit of money at the minute, so it'll just mean I save up less money. And I'm quite frugal as well. I don't need the heating on 24/7. But at the end of the day, I mean, the heating to me is a perfect example of what happens when there's this one party system, as in they put the prices up, but you can't really do without gas and electric, so you're stuck with them unless you're gonna like spend a fortune and go off the grid and build yourself a bloody water turbine, which I know a few people have done lately, which seems a bit extreme to me. And even then, they make a lot of money by film themselves living off the grid. Yes, I live off the grid. Here's where I make my YouTube videos. Hey, bless them. Hey, if it makes them happy. But yeah. But anyway, Atlas Shrugged, I definitely suggest everybody gives it a read, even if you don't like it. I certainly recommend you don't take it too seriously. It is a fucking fiction book. Don't take it to heart. You know, and yeah, I mean, I'll try and get another video done before long. On what, I do not know.